Hey, I'm Jim Barry. Welcome once again to Miami Life. And guess what? This show recently celebrated an anniversary. It's been just over a year since we launched it. Our goal, capture what makes South Florida so unique, because we all know things here hit just a little bit different. And a big reason, of course, is the people. Our Person of Interest segment shines a spotlight on those making an impact in unique ways. Sometimes we found it came out of tragedy, but in other cases it was just a personal calling. When Jason Jenkins died 2 years ago, the Dolphins needed someone to step into his huge shoes and lead their enormously successful Dolphins Cancer Challenge. So, team president Tom Garfinkel approached Jenkins' widow.
What are your thoughts about maybe taking over his board chair? And I was like, oh, that's a little much.
So what convinced you?
I went to church and my pastor gave a very impassioned speech about if God keeps bringing something into your life, maybe you should say yes.
Elizabeth Jenkins took on the role. At first, returning to Hard Rock Stadium, where her husband had collapsed and died of a blood clot at age 47, was tough.
So when I would walk up to the stadium, I would look up at his window, and I will be honest, I looked for him. I was hoping that he would be there.
The Dolphins have been a cocoon of support for Jenkins and her 3 young children. In return, she has become every bit the community advocate her late husband was. The Dolphins Cancer Challenge bonds people by the sense of loss that cancer inevitably brings. Jenkins believes her own loss prepared her for this role.
I think people are comfortable talking to me because I really wear my emotions on my sleeve. I have no problem talking about the uncomfortable things. Death is a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. I'm comfortable talking about people's grief.
What do you tell them?
Life is not always roses and rainbows. Sometimes you're going to go through some seasons of life where things are hard.
At a public tribute to her husband 2 years ago, Elizabeth Jenkins challenged everyone there to channel her husband's giving spirit. Now she sees her words from that day in an even bigger light.
I wonder if his passing was a moment that was passing the torch to others to start taking it on their own, where in an area that maybe they never thought they could.
Including you.
Including me.
Yeah.
Including me.
Yeah.
We have an obligation and responsibility for hand-ups, not hand-outs.
Ron, this is no way to live.
No. I mean, this is squalor-like conditions.
We met Ron Book at a makeshift encampment in Miami, a place that the homeless call home. It's a rough existence. Book is chair of the Miami-Dade Homeless Trust. His initial 2-year stint has turned into a 33-year crusade.
And I thought originally that when you found somebody unhoused, if you offered them a place to live,
That's it.
it would be easy. It's just not.
So Book's Homeless Trust is creating more housing. In Cutler Bay, it bought this hotel to turn it into senior housing for homeless elderly people. He was stunned by the not in my neighborhood reaction from some members of that community.
How can you not want an elderly person to find a home, a roof over their heads?
So you're saying people have lost compassion?
I think people have. That is a new phenomenon that we have not experienced in 34 years of the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust's existence. Give me a shout whenever you get a chance. I'm around most of the day today.
Ron Book is not just a tireless advocate, he's tireless, period. Book splits his time between South Florida and Tallahassee, lobbying for the rich and powerful with the politically influential. Been at this now, 30 years?
33.
Now, Book is considered the big dog of Florida lobbyists. He has weathered questions about double dealing and headlines 4 years ago about a DUI arrest. But nothing seemed to slow him down until he had a bout with throat cancer. I was worried for you.
I appreciated it.
Yeah.
I'm probably too mean to die, but I'm also too determined to let something beat me. And when you think you're going to die, or really believe you're going to die, you're not going to be here, you double down on the things that really matter to you.
Well, from superstar entertainers to Hall of Fame athletes, South Florida has no shortage of famous faces. We've talked to some of them here on Miami Life. They include the First Lady of the 305, a Miami Heat Hall of Famer, and a former Miami Dolphin who was doing it all, even stand-up comedy. Channing Crowder never sits still. He's like the character from that old comedy show, In Living Color. Crowder talks sports on radio every day and on TV every week. Plus, he co-hosts a podcast, markets his own line of food seasoning, and is an occasional keynote speaker.
I just saw, I saw the windows, and I just saw things open up, and I'm like, man, I got to maximize this.
Oh. It's 40 years old. Oh, my goodness. But this former Miami Dolphins' most ambitious project might be his foray into stand-up comedy. Some of it centers around his 6-year NFL career, when he talked trash on the field. We won't show much of Crowder's comedy act. It's for mature audiences, too risque for regular TV. But his naturally jovial mood hides an insatiable drive to do it all.
77% of ex-NFL players go broke.
Yep.
80-something% get divorced if they're married while they're playing. You hear all those stats. I'm like, I'm not going to be a stat.
At age 54, Heat legend Alonzo Mourning still looks like the picture of health, much like he did as a tower of basketball strength 20 years ago. But he learned even basketball Hall of Famers are not invincible. When the doctor told you that word, cancer, what was your reaction?
And listen, deflated. I was like, me? Are you kidding me? I feel great.
It was stage 3 prostate cancer. After surgery 8 months ago, Mourning is now cancer-free, convinced that catching the disease early saved his life. He's now on a mission to encourage other men to be diligent about their health.
I want to get rid of the narrative that men don't go to the doctor. You know, I want to create some momentum behind men taking charge of their health.
But
now,
you know how we're raised, though.
oh yeah, man.
You know,
we
we're
raised,
man, you know, that ain't nothing.
suck it up,
Yeah.
be a man,
Right.
tough it out. I want to change that narrative.
21 years ago, Mourning underwent a kidney transplant at the peak of his hoops career. It prompted him to encourage others to be organ donors.
You know, you're the CEO of this company, and nobody's going to do it for you. So you make the necessary adjustments so you can feel good, man. So you can feel good, so that you're around, because there's so many other people that rely on you being around.
Gloria Estefan is about as gracious an icon as you can meet. I last ran into her in New York City on the red carpet of a major charity event. Backstage, she was one of the first people to hear about this new show, Miami Life, and one of the best people to sum up what life in the 305 is all about. So tell me how you would describe Miami Life.
Oh, okay. Miami Life is hot in every way possible, but in the best ways possible. I always say, Miami, we live in paradise. Whenever I'm going from the mainland to the beach, or even back to the mainland, and I see those beautiful broad skies and the colors and the trees and the ocean and the water, I've traveled a lot, and Miami Life is just wonderful, and I think a lot of people are discovering that too now.
Gloria and her husband Emilio helped define Miami's vibe when they cranked out hits with the Miami Sound Machine. It's almost hard to remember that their runaway success was nearly sabotaged by a bus accident that left her temporarily paralyzed. She recovered fully, but never forgot the ordeal. Gloria has since become a staunch supporter of the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis, launched by late Miami Dolphin legend Nick Bonacani after his son Mark was paralyzed playing college football. Why is this organization so near and dear to your heart?
Oh my gosh, because I have walked in those steps and been in that chair momentarily, and thankfully came out the other side walking away from it, and I want to be a part of that cure. It's just an amazing and very personal thing for me.
Well, up next on Miami Life, the Cold War on South Florida roads. Lots of people love riding their bikes around Miami, but some drivers aren't happy. Who's right and who's wrong? We're going to take a closer look. And the unique story of a mother who lost her son in the Parkland tragedy, but who seeks to connect with him through a medium. An encore look at her story when we come back. Welcome back. One of our more unique stories zeroed in on how one Parkland parent has been coping with unthinkable tragedy. Patricia Oliver felt she needed a way to stay connected to her late son, Joaquin, so she turned to a medium for an assist. At first glance, Linda Heighthouse comes across as your typical South Florida mom, but she says she has cultivated a gift to see far beyond what most of us can with our own eyes.
Let me see what else he's going to do.
As a medium, Heighthouse says she can spiritually connect with the dead. Today, she says her connection is with Joaquin Oliver. The 17-year-old was one of 17 people killed in the Parkland tragedy 7 years ago.
A lot of times Joaquin plays music. Right now he's playing the Rolling Stones, Beast of Burden, which I actually hear the songs in my head.
Heighthouse is relaying all of these messages in a reading with Joaquin's mother, Patricia Oliver, who is convinced of Heighthouse's ability as a psychic go-between, linking her to her late son.
So maybe that's something you should listen to. Maybe you'll hear it when you leave here. Maybe it'll play on the radio.
Maybe, because I usually play this adult radio, The Coast.
Okay.
So maybe they're going to play for me on my way back.
Yeah.
For the past several years, Oliver and Heighthouse have become best friends after the worst of circumstances.
I don't know what I do next.
Oliver was introduced to Heighthouse through other Parkland families, and Oliver has leaned on her ever since. Heighthouse calls her psychic powers innate, further developed through years of study.
This is very strong. He took your hand and he said, "Thank you for telling my story. Always me right, yeah." There's no one better to tell my story than my parents.
We don't need your guns. We don't need your money. And we're going to get rid of your politicians.
Patricia Oliver and her husband Manny have been unrelenting in telling their son's story as a crusade against gun violence. Psychologically, it has been a heavy lift. Oliver says the messages she gets from Heighthouse from or about Joaquin help relieve the burden.
It's perfect, the gift that she has.
And why is it good for you?
Because I need to know about Joaquin. I didn't finish my role as a mom.
So she helped bring you peace?
A lot.
Well, one story that sparked many comments from Miami Life viewers was our look at South Florida's cycling craze. Of course, lots of people here love riding their bikes, but sometimes it puts them at odds with drivers upset at how they can clog up the roads. Recreational cycling in Miami is huge.
Well, you have the opportunity to make new friendships, and there's a sense of freedom when you're riding.
Miami is considered one of the world's most scenic bike cities. Rachel Lasada of Max Cycle in South Miami says business is booming because of the cycling craze.
We've seen a lot of new customers. Miami has a very low barrier to entry for cycling, meaning the terrain is very gentle. We don't have any mountains, any hills. It's flat. Our road quality is very good.
Since traffic can be so bad in Miami, the fact so many people are on their bikes should be a good thing. But not everyone's happy about it. Cyclists want to enjoy their ride, and drivers just want to get where they're going. Why can't we all just get along?
We live in a really high-stress, kind of fast-paced city where there's a lot of things happening all the time and a lot of demands. And I think there's a lot of lack of compassion in general between people.
It seems every cyclist with a spandex kit has a story or two about an encounter with an angry Miami driver.
I've had plenty of ugly encounters. I've had a beer can chucked at my head on Rickenbacker Causeway. I've had change thrown at me. I've had garbage thrown out the window at me. I've been run off the road a couple times.
One driver follow the peloton, get in front of the peloton, and then brake on purpose to see if we were going to crash into the back of him.
But the war of the road is one-sided. When it's car versus bike, the car always wins.
We have to work with each other in order to make it safer.
Still to come on this anniversary edition of Miami Life, we'll take you inside the operation again that made "Only in Dade" an international catchphrase. And we revisit one of South Florida's most distinctive restaurants back in business after a multi-million-dollar facelift. Welcome back. One of our very first stops in Miami Life was to visit Only in Dade. It captures the thread of South Florida life the way few things do. The social media sensation has carved out its own place in keeping people here in the know.
To show that Miami isn't just like one type of person.
What is the difference between a sugar daddy and a sugar puppy?
From its humble beginnings as a Facebook meme, Only in Dade has grown into a multimedia operation known for capturing all things wild and wacky in the 305. Bad drivers? Yep. Bad boaters? You know it. Shoeless concert goers? Questionable life choices. There is no shortage of Only in Dade material, and it's hard not to notice. At its headquarters just west of Coral Gables, I met the team behind the brand. Lenny Carter is the soft-spoken founder. Co-CEO Shanut Arnold, the outgoing director of operations. They lead a youthful and creative staff who know the lay of the land. Virtually all of them were born and raised here.
The Only in Dade immediate, right. It started with, this stuff happens only in Dade. It really did just start that way.
Since then, Only in Dade has exploded, getting 400 million impressions a month across its social media platforms. Only in Dade's Instagram has become a go-to source for breaking news. Citizen journalists provide nearly 400 submissions a day. When did you realize you had something really that was catching on?
I want to say it was probably around 2020 during the pandemic, right when COVID started, showing up in our lives because we shared some content related to COVID and things that were starting to brew here in the community, and the engagement that we got was overwhelming.
Music mogul Emilio Estefan has become so enamored with this platform that he's become an investor. And now, Only in Dade is thinking about being in more places besides Only in Dade. Only in Dade is proof that a good idea can go a long way, especially in a place where crazy things provide an endless supply of Only in Dade material. And stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. On this show, we've enjoyed getting out and visiting some local landmarks and institutions. We've popped in on historic places like the old Davie School, where we got a very interesting tour. We've taken you inside the oldest comic book store in South Florida, A&M Comics on Bird Road. And we've also hung out at the popular watering hole, Duffy's Tavern, with its very entertaining former owner. These old school places are all too rare in South Florida, where there is always something new and shiny, it seems, which is why I loved seeing the legendary Mai Kai restaurant reopen in Fort Lauderdale. The Mai Kai takes you to places thousands of miles away and immerses you in cultures that are thousands of years old. In South Florida, where so much is new, the Mai Kai is a throwback. Why did you think it was important to preserve this spot?
Mai Kai is a South Florida institution. It's a legacy. It's something that is so unique, not just in South Florida, but all over the United States.
Two brothers, Bob and Jack Thornton, opened the Mai Kai in 1956 in what then was a remote part of suburban Fort Lauderdale. Over the years, it became a place locals and tourists alike flocked to enjoy the hula dancing, strong tropical cocktails, and a whole lot of good times.
Their childhood memories, or a lot of people got married here, engaged here, had anniversaries here, birthdays here. It just recalls all the great memories they've had in the past.
In 2020, it appeared the Mai Kai's run would be over. A burst pipe led to a roof collapse. The place closed. High-rise developers had their eyes on the land. But businessman Bill Fuller, who came to the Mai Kai years ago as a kid, convinced the Mai Kai family heirs to let him and his management company take a shot at reviving it.
The real story is the fact that they were absolutely committed to what their family had started, and I think they made the right choice, and here we are today, and I think we've rebuilt the Mai Kai for now the next 65 years and beyond.
4 years and $20 million in renovations later, the new and improved Mai Kai is back on the block with authentic tiki touches, new nooks and crannies, and the same old joyous spirit. Well, that does it for this week's anniversary edition of Miami Life. Remember, we'll see you every Thursday for this show at 6:30 on the stream. You can also watch all Miami Life episodes on demand on our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode of Miami Life. Until then, I'm Jim Barry. See you soon.